We had this way before the coming of the white man. Way before the encroachment, you know, this is the way we lived. So all the spiritual leaders, all the medicine men, we went underground. We hid it because when they came and they started to kill our people, we wanted these ways to live and continue for the generations coming. So we pray for the spirit of the deer to hang his antler high, you know, honor him, live on in the land of happiness, you know. We promise to make good things of him, you know. Our families protected us, never exposed us. Many generations we stay underground. We practice our sweat lodge. We practice our vision quest. We practice our Sundance. He says, grandson, one day you too will be Lord of the Holy Man. That's why I do this documentary, because I used to hide who I am. We were all lost people. We were all lost people one time. But because we took this way of life underground, now it is time to share it with the world. When Grandmother Earth gets sick, none of us are going to be nourished. That day, this mountain showed me fortitude. That pain disappeared. The amigos took my pain. I crawled up that hill backwards. So us medicine men, we try to tell the world there's only one God. But because we're not open-minded, open-hearted, you know, we don't want to accept each other. So, you know, it is what you guys are doing is very taboo for our people, you know that. But me, you know, I know who I am also. We need to hold hands. We need to stop war. We need to help each other as relatives instead of fighting each other like that. Because the greatest healing that needs to be done, the greatest cure that needs to be done is Grandmother Earth. Mysteries of the universe, mysteries of the world, mysteries that the white men don't even know yet with their technology. I'm in the greatest classroom in the world. I was home alone and the thunderstorm was coming, a great thunderstorm. I was scared, you know, so I went in the house. I crawled under this bedroom. I pulled all the boxes on myself and I hid, you know. And as this thunderstorm started coming, you know, I got more scared. All of a sudden there was a knock on the door. And I said, oh good, one of my family members is home. So before I come out of the bed, you know, this door opened and I seen this old woman dressed in a blue calico dress with this, you know, she had old boots. And with this, you know, she came into the living room and she hollered out, she said, Takoja, Takoja, you know, grandson, you know, what are you doing under that bed? You know, come on, what are you scared of? So I told her, you know, I said, this thunderstorm's coming. I'm home alone, you know. And I never seen this woman, you know, it wasn't my grandma. So I asked her, where'd you come from? And she said, I came from the clouds, you know. I come down to talk to you, you know. So I got out of the bed and she said, come out, I'll show you the thunder beams. And she brought me outside, and as this thunderstorm was coming, she told me, you're a Lakota. You're an Oglala Lakota. This is your way of life. Those are our ancestors coming. And as I looked in the clouds, you know, some of the clouds were buffalo. Some of them were elk, you know, coyotes, wolves, bears, warriors, women and children. They were all coming at me. And it looked like a giant movie screen, what I was seeing. And this old lady took me by my hand and she said, in the future, we're going to work with you. You're going to work with the medicine man. You're going to work with plants from the ground. You're going to do healings, you know. So, you know, that was the very first encounter I had of the supernatural way like that. And she took me back in the house, and all of a sudden she kind of left out the door. And when I peeked out, she went out the front door, and as I peeked out the other window, she never crossed that window. So I went over to the front door, I looked outside, but there was nobody. So it's sixth sense. That sixth sense that's instilled in us. We know. My dogs, they know. They used to, when a spirit come in, like, rah, 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 I said, whoa, hey, you know, bark at the white man, you know, don't bark at the spirits.
Keep them away.
Yeah, keep them away, you know. But the bird, you know, my bird, when the spirits come in, they'll look at me and they say, people here, you know. So that bird knows the grandfather came in. So, yeah, spiritually, the blacktail, you have to respect it, you know. Last night in the sweat lodge, you know, that deer antler, I don't know if you guys seen that or, you know, if you were in a different frame of mind. But that deer antler come and land in my lap and asked me to pray for the antler nation. So that's how sacred they are. Their spirit can come back to you, even though, you know, you think you done killed them. As medicine man, in that altar, they can come back to life. You notice our sundance tree. Before we even went to get it, maybe 2 weeks before we even went, we searched many trees. We asked if they would give of themselves, how they felt of giving of themselves. And a lot of them stay silent, you know. And me, you know, learning from my father, learning from my grandfather, I sit there, I talk to a tree. If it's quiet, no response, then, you know, I know that he's not the one that here. I can go to a tree, talk to it, and when you know, a scientist may say, oh, it was the wind that made the leaves shake, you know. But me, in that shaking of the leaves, I got a response from that tree. That tree understands what we want it for, what it's sacrificing it for. And we bring that tree back, we feed the spirit of that tree, and then we resurrect that tree just like the resurrection of Jesus. So now that that tree is in a spirit form, then we can communicate with the spirit world. It is the tree of life, you know. Well, see, to you, your sixth sense is not as tuned as mine. Now, what I see is one of my grandfathers that come in, you know. He's standing here now, listening to what we're doing here, you know. So they're my helpers. So when I have to do something like this, you hear them come in. It doesn't have to be dark, you know. But sometimes when they come in, you'll see a skeleton. When I was a young man, I used to get scared and start trembling and bite my lips, you know, bite my tongue, because I was uncertain of what they wanted. Sometimes you'll see a person who got in a car wreck and burned up. And when they come to visit me, then they come in that burned form. you know. And we took Daylin, you guys know Daylin?
Yeah.
We took him and there was a big buck in him. We wanted him to have bragging rights, so we gave him the rifle. And they're young, so they ran and they got up there. We had the binoculars, we were watching. He gets the rifle, you know, he puts it up on that corral. He's standing there, so I said, all right, they're standing still, he's gonna get it, you know. He's standing there, they're about maybe a half mile away, huh, Puck?
Yeah, we're watching.
We're watching him like that, and it looks like he's gonna pull the trigger. All of a sudden, he sets the rifle down, you know. And he reaches in his pocket, and I said, what the hell is he doing, man? He pulls out his phone. Hello? Hey. Yeah, we're hunting over here, man, you know. Forgot about his dad. Oh, man. And then the bucks, they took off that way. So Misu, you know, Misu looks at him, he looks down at that rifle. He grabbed that rifle, jumped the fence, took off. And for some reason, agave plant was always indigenous to us, indigenous people. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Whereas all the other alcohols come from Europe with the white man culture like that.
Oh, and corn liquor, that's a native.
Yeah, that's native. So like that, we could ferment corn or agave, if you know, things like that, you know. There's some plants here, you could, they give you a good rush, but I don't want to tell nobody that. Yeah. All the people will be going around pulling the plants out.
Yeah.
But
you could show me.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I won't tell. I won't tell.
So when's that white man gonna go home? Plants are brown now.
The Pearsons we still think are pretty barbaric, I guess, but it's what they do to show that they are committed to that lifestyle or that way of life, and I think that's very important to them. Obviously, it's something that would probably be outlawed in the UK. I'm pretty sure they wouldn't be allowed to do it, but here I think it's very important. And it shows that the kids are committed to doing, you know, what they're doing.
Well, it was outlawed.
So for Lakota people today, it not only has that value of renewing your connections with the same kinfolk that your ancestors had relations with, but it also is a kind of a way of pushing back to the dominant culture and saying, I'm Lakota. I'm doing this ceremony, which you can't possibly understand. You can't understand it because you don't live in a world or a worldview that sees animals and plants as kinfolk. In fact, you live in just the opposite kind of world. When you Europeans came over here, you were interested in the land as a land of resources to be extracted, for the lumber and the gold and the minerals of various sorts. And you cut down the forest and you dug up the earth and whatever you needed to do to get it. You didn't see it as having anything to do with kinfolk obligations. You were rather brutal about it. And the environment's gone to hell. So how could you understand what we're doing in Sundance? So when I do Sundance as a Lakota person, these dancers would be saying, I'm affirming my identity as being different than that identity. Different than the polluters, the corporations, greed, etc. I'm affirming my Lakota identity and reaffirming my relationships with my plant and animal relatives in the old ways.
I was slowly learning what these men were about. I was starting to realize they weren't heathens. I was starting to realize that, you know, they weren't savages, they were my grandfathers. They were my uncles, you know. my grandfather taught me how to use it. My father taught me how to use it, so we use it, you know. It's a miracle drug. But a lot of my relatives that don't understand it condemn it. So when I try to put this peyote away so my family would come back, then I get lightning struck, and they say that medicine does more for the people than your relatives ever could. And he understood Lakota, so he was talking back. All of a sudden, these spirits that used to talk to me at Mark Bigrow's and at Fooskro's, you know, they came in and they started talking to me again. So in that way, like that, you know, see, when you're talking and you mention the old grandfathers, they come. And just like that, you see, you know, they touch that camera. They remembered, so they, you know, what you just witnessed, that's power. That's the power of the medicine, man. So they think I'm, you know, crazy in the head, but my belief, you know, how a UFO can go all over like this, and they take our spirit. I shoot all over, yeah. But that's, when they want to, I cannot spirit travel when I want to. When the spirit world wants me for a reason, then they come to me. Every once in a while I get a guy that has doubts. I make him look through there. One guy said the gourds were, I cut all these lights off for these kids' tennis shoes, you know. The ones that make light. And I said, I don't think so, you know. That's the energy that be. So dealing with all kinds of different races of people, you always have to continuously get their spirituality in tune. There's a lot of doubt, you know.
The crushed stuff, honey.
Okay, and see what they do is we put it in a blender and we crush it into a pulp. See?
It's dry.
When it's dry. So these ones here are drying. Some people, they make chips out of it. Where's my DEA paper? Is it hard to find that paper, that church?
Well, let me see if I got the one on it.
Yeah, if you could just.
Back in the day, my father didn't tell them he was administering peyote. So they just took it, drank it, because that's a medicine. But now that they realize I give people peyote, everybody's leery of me. So in this way, you know, I try to teach our culture, you know, I try to teach our language like that. And here we don't practice our way of life, we live our way of life, you know.